Have you thanked a Phoenician today? We're back at Epcot at Walt Disney World, where the International Festival of the Holidays is still going in full swing. I just took a fun little spin on Spaceship Earth, traveling far, far back into humanity's a different past and then moving slowly back to the future. Hey, I never thought about that with Spaceship Earth. You go back to the future. Looking at colorful characters along the way, looking at Steve Carell in there, going into the Matrix. I even, for the first time, spotted the entrance to that Geo 82, the new bar that's located right up in there. It's day 3 for me here at Walt Disney World during the Christmas season. I think I only slept for about 3 hours last night, but I've had some hot coffee. I grabbed a little more food, filled up my jiggly dad bod. So I'm fed and watered now. I'm not sure if that was actually helpful in waking me up today. If anything, it might have been a little counterproductive. Counteracted the coffee there a little bit. Feeling a little drowsy, a little sleepy, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go, ready to do, and I'm ready to see with Nemo and his friends. So green outside and Spaceship Earth is so white. That probably explains why I had a craving to see the big blue world under the sea.
I'm sure we'll see him any minute now.
Nemo!
Dude, have you ever noticed Nemo's kind of a little jerk in this ride? Everybody's looking for him and he's just running around giggling. Come on, Nemo, being lost is not a joke. All right, I think that scratched the itch. We got to see Nemo's little corner of the big blue world. And now we've been released into the old seas pavilion. I gotta be honest with you, I'm just killing time a little because my cousin, my grandma's granddaughter, my mom's brother's daughter, who lives in Pennsylvania and has done for many years, is actually in Epcot today with her husband, but they haven't texted me back yet to let me know where they are. It's kind of weird because I don't know if anybody else that I'm related to in any way has ever even been to Disney World. That whole part of the family was born and raised in Anaheim, California, next to the original Disneyland, right across the street, in fact. And so we always had the attitude for years, like, why would anyone go to Disney World? We got the original. Of course, that was well before things like YouTube, so we had no way of knowing how epic Disney World was. All we had to go off back then was the rare TV episode where like Urkel came to Disney World or something. Obviously, I have since adjusted my attitude and mended my ways. I love Disney World now. Gosh, I love being out here. You know, this freaking pavilion is amazing. It's changed quite a bit since it first opened, you know. I believe originally you came through these sort of elevator things that sort of simulated going down underneath the ocean. And so it was like you were in an undersea base, sort of an undersea Babylon 5 or something like SeaQuest. Oh gosh, do you remember SeaQuest? It was the perfect theme for all these little educational stations. And the reason you have this sort of epic, large-scale, futuristic kind of architecture in here. And it's not that you can't still imagine yourself in an undersea base anymore, but there's really nothing to tell you that story when you come in here these days. I love this huge, massive aquarium they've got here. 5.7 million gallons of seawater or something like that are back in there. Behind that glass, I love that this little interpretive sign just says fish. So that's what a fish looks like. But it's not just fish, is it? Look at the sharks, rays, sea turtles, and reef fish in here. All looking absolutely gorgeous with those rays of sunlight coming down. Love it in here. I love aquariums. It's crazy, just before Halloween, I went into the Mandalay Bay Shark Reef in Las Vegas for the first time ever. That was a pretty epic aquarium. And now, just before Christmas, I'm in an aquarium at Epcot. It's like there's an aquarium for every occasion. I love the way that you can see how the Nemo ride actually passes through the aquarium. I love the not-so-hidden Mickey in here. There's been tons of sharks and sea turtles swimming around. Haven't seen the dolphins, though. Maybe they're on their smoke break. I love the way there's just so many little educational enclaves inside of the sea at Epcot. You can learn so much about the ocean, about the different wildlife in the ocean. I just realized I don't think I've ever heard of fish and ocean species referred to as wildlife before. Is that appropriate? Well, anyways, I haven't got the call yet, but I have a feeling that my cousin is probably drinking around the world with her husband. And so much like our primordial ancestors, I'm gonna leave the seas now and head out to dry land. Oh, this is pretty cool on my way out here. Look at that, one of the Disney divers is about to actually go through the lockout chamber. I didn't know they still did this.
Let me know if you see any water starting to come up. There it goes. Yes! So you started the lockout chamber, wonderful. So this is a lockout chamber that's designed to help you go from one environment to another, like a dry to a wet environment. It's even used on submarines. Now our lockout chamber holds 4,000 gallons of fresh water, and it has a depth of 27 feet. That's the same amount as our main environment on the second floor.
Dude, that is so rad. I've seen that thing draining a million times. But until today, I've never actually seen a diver ascend this little tube in here. That is awesome. It's funny because the cast member that's the host over there talking about hand signals and all the diving signals and stuff, she asked the room, does anybody want to get scuba certified in the future? And somebody way up here on the balcony just yelled, no! I've never heard somebody so angry about scuba certification. For Christmas, I need one of these cool squid hats. Oh yeah, speaking of Christmas, reminds me I gotta start heading around the world. Now I need to get out to the World Showcase to experience Christmas, but also to find my cousin. So although I may come back to it later, I don't want to spend too much time inside the land. And yet really quick, I just want to take a peek inside because I know they decorate Living with the Land, the boat ride inside. But I can't remember if there's any other decorations inside the pavilion. Well, there's a couple of Christmas wreaths in here, but otherwise, nope, not too much. Looks like the line for Living with the Land is pretty tasty, pretty long down there. I'm gonna wait till I'm here in the evening time before I do that, because Christmas always looks better at night. After all, the song doesn't go silent day, ho, you know what I mean? Gosh, even though I was just here the other day in Epcot looking at Christmas stuff, there's still so much left to do. We still gotta ride the land, we still gotta visit Figment, ride the new test track. It's been a long time since I've been on Soarin'. There's always so much to see and do and experience at Epcot. You always kind of have it in your head, like, yeah, I'll do one day at Epcot, I'll do one day at Magic Kingdom, one day at whatever park, but you really definitely need way more than one day at any given park to really do and see it all. Well, except for Animal Kingdom, but they're working on that. All right, off to the World Showcase. It's always amazing to me that Disney was able to take a chunk of sinkhole-infested swamp and not only make it feel like you were traveling through the future up there in Future World, but also transform this subtropical piece of landscape and seamlessly make it feel like you've traveled to any country you can imagine around the world. Like, it's easy to believe you're in Mexico. Mexico's pretty warm, right? But how come even though it's 80 degrees when I turn the corner, all of a sudden I'm in Norway and my brain just accepts it? Like, I'm in Norway now, right? I'm not even in Epcot anymore. I mean, now I'm in the land of Vikings and trolls. Weird. I mean, is it just me or does this happen to everybody at Epcot? Maybe my brain is just broken or something. By the way, earlier this year I was here filming Secrets of the World Showcase. You can still find that video, and I talked about this, the hidden sword in Norway behind the waterfall. And look at this, the waterfall is low or something today. You can actually see the hidden sword back there. And as far as I'm aware, there's never been like a canonical story behind that sword, other than sort of a non-Arthur specific kind of sword in the stone reference. It's obviously a Viking age weapon back there, and it's located just below the old opening that was up here in this rock for the ride inside, which used to be called Maelstrom. It was much more Norway themed than Frozen themed. It was still awesome. There were just far fewer snowmen walking around. I've read lots of rumors, but never heard like an official verified story of why it was specifically placed there like that. Maybe something from Norse mythology. Maybe one of you knows. You can leave me a comment. But I do know seeing that sword is like seeing Bigfoot. Very, very rare indeed. Look at that. 1 second ago we were in Norway. Now we're in China, and my brain just accepts it. It's saying, you're here, Justin. You've made it to the Far East, a land full of hidden Mickeys. Perfect time for a selfie. Just let me make sure I get the right spot. Fun pic! We nailed it. The perfect picture. All right, I never thought I'd be looking for family in Epcot. And I really never thought I'd be looking for family in Germany. But here we are. And somewhere around here is my cousin. Ooh. No, she's in China. I've gone too far this time. I have to go back. There she is. Right when I have a Mentos in my mouth. My cousin Jessica. I have now seen you twice in 1 year, which is more than I've seen you in years and years and years. And then there's Jason. What's up, Jason? You guys left the kids behind? We did. So now you're drinking around the world?
Around the world.
Yeah. Okay, Jess just noticed that this postcard she got in China is made in the United States. That is weird. That never happens, especially at Disney. That was so cool, dude. I just got to take an unplanned, unexpected trip around the world with my cousin and her husband, her man. They're drinking around the world. I left them in Mexico to explore the wonders of the tequila. Hung out for about an hour, caught up just a little bit. I'm always jealous of them because they live in Pennsylvania, not far from Gettysburg, which is where I'd move if I could move anywhere. Anyway, that was a real treat. I texted my uncle when I landed in Orlando, like, oh, sorry I didn't reply to you. I've just got to Orlando right now. And then all of a sudden she starts texting me like, hey, you're in Orlando. So weird. That has never happened to me before. Well, like I mentioned this morning, I only got about 3 hours of sleep last night. And that wasn't even last night. That was this morning. So I didn't get up till noon. So today isn't the most cohesive, well-planned adventure we've ever had. But like I always say, any adventure adventure is better than none. And for me, any time at Epcot is a good time. Anyway, when I finally got up today, I thought in my head that we were going to be doing a lot more Christmas stuff at Epcot. See some more of that International Festival of the Holidays. Go see Barn Santa and Père Noël. Instead, we've been spending time underwater, just wandering around the world. It's all gone wrong, and yet because we're at Epcot, it's all so right. And here we are now in Canada. Now, as you guys know, if you've been watching my videos from this summer, when I went to Canada, that is the country of my father's birth. All the English and Scottish side of my family pretty much came to the States through Canada. Although weirdly, some of them got to Canada through the United States. And I've still got a lot of family in Ontario, some in Saskatchewan, some in British Columbia. And yet I've never spent a Christmas in Canada. Like most people born and raised in the United States, I actually know precious little about Canada itself, which I feel like is true for the vast majority of people who visit Canada here at Epcot. I think for many Americans, this is the only part of Canada they ever see, which is why it's great that they have the Canada Far and Wide Circle Vision Theater movie down there showing you all different parts of Canada and giving you a little overview of America's top hat up there. Yet when it comes to the pavilion itself, what are we looking at here? Well, the first thing that strikes you when you first see the pavilion from the walkway around the World Showcase Lagoon is this, what most people refer to as the castle. And to be fair, it has a very sort of Hogwarts-esque appearance, doesn't it? Well, this fine castle-looking building is known as the Hotel du Canada, and it's actually based on a real building in Ottawa, a luxury hotel built in Ottawa in 1912 on the Grand Trunk Railway in the sort of French chateau style, sort of a nod to Canada's French traditions. And the guy who commissioned the hotel, Charles Hayes, actually died before it opened because he died on the Titanic that same year. Down here in the basement at Epcot, they've got Le Cellier, which means the cellar in French, a pretty swanky steakhouse. They got some other stuff upstairs, some kind of lounge and such like things. I've actually never been inside of this. One day I'll get in there, one day. And then you notice that the rest of the pavilion is surrounded by all of these rocks, right? So like behind the steakhouse, you have to go through this little cavern here along the river to reach the show back there, Canada Far and Wide. But if you first walk into the pavilion on the lower level, you're down here in what they call the Victoria Gardens, which is based on a real garden in British Columbia called the Butchart Gardens. It was opened up in a former limestone quarry, so that's part of why you're seeing these rocks, right? So you see these lovely flower gardens, the ponds, that cute little cottage back there, and then those rocks like the real limestone quarry in BC. Then you'll notice not only is there that little canyon there along the creek, but when we were on the upper level looking down, the rocks were much bigger, much craggier. You can see all those little miniature trees up there mimicking big pine trees on mountains. That's because it's also partially themed around the Canadian Rockies, all the mountains in Canada. Well, there's a lot of mountains in Canada, the most spectacular mountains in Canada. One of the wildest places left on Earth, full of all kinds of mountains and valleys and crags and canyons and waterfalls. It's just one of the coolest places in Epcot. Like you come down those stairs and there's all these little streams down here. You have your massive waterfall cascading down from the rocky heights. And because it is Canada, you even have your barrel of maple syrup. I love that they have some of these supplies down here. Kind of pays tribute to that sort of pioneering Canadian tradition, you know, traveling through the mountains or maybe out to the Yukon. And then down here in these rocky caves, that's where you enter the show, Canada Far and Wide. See, it sort of pays tribute to Canada's mining history. Look at this, you got some authentic mining equipment, got all that wood framing there. By the way, a little Disney tie-in to Canada's mining history, specifically up in the Yukon Territory. That's actually where Scrooge McDuck struck it rich and made his fortune. I'm not even kidding. Check out The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck by Don Rosa, or pick up some of those early Carl Barks Scrooge McDuck's comics. Scrooge is from Scotland. He lives in America, but he made his fortune in Canada. Just one of the coolest, most brilliant spots in Epcot back here in all of this. And I feel like the vast majority of visitors to Epcot, especially first-time visitors, never get back there and see it. The Canada Pavilion was one of the opening day pavilions, October 1st, 1982 here, so it's always been a part of the cot. Decorated for Christmas now with a couple of poinsettias back here. And I love that they paid tribute to Canada's British past with the sort of British telephone box here. But of course also the French part of the culture with Le Chateau. And of course French is one of the two official languages in Canada, so you could say Merry Christmas or Joyeux Noël. One thing I've always liked about Canada is that way earlier than us in the States, they wised up and became a lot more sensitive about the indigenous part of Canada's mixture. And so of course when they built the Canada Pavilion, Pavilion here at Epcot. You come up the steps from the World Showcase Lagoon. The first thing you see is a little Trapper's Lodge, the Northwest Mercantile, a little bit of that pioneering European discovery and settlement of Canada. But then that flows right into the trading post over here, constructed in a First Nations, that's their way of saying Native American style, and it's also surrounded by totem poles. The original totem poles out here were carved by my good friend Leroy Schmaltz of Oceanic Arts. He's the guy that was the Tiki King, right? He did all those classic masks at the entrance to Adventureland. Good friend of mine, I miss him dearly, but those were replaced in this century as they age with these totem poles here that aren't just inspired by traditional Native American or First Nations totem poles. They're actually carved this time by David Boxley, who is himself a Native American. So now all the symbolism is legit. You can read those little interpretive signs, find out what the totem poles actually mean. They all tell a story. And as much as I hate to see Leroy's original artwork go away, in fact, he was telling me a story one time about he chopped into his hand with an axe, the only time he ever lost, or almost lost, a finger while carving those totem poles. As much as I'm sad to see those go away, it's kind of awesome that they brought something a little more authentic over here to the Canada Pavilion. I actually have a friend from Canada who's in Epcot right now, a famous writer named Blake Northcott, who I gotta go meet up with in a couple of seconds, so I'm gonna have to bounce in a second. But I just kind of wanted to come and shed a little more light on the Canada Pavilion, look at the snowshoes, wander around the Northwest Mercantile, check out some of the decorations. Ooh, look at all that cranberry colored stuff up there. I love that they also literally have flannel ornaments, like if it's not First Nations symbolism. And by the way, I think these totem poles here are still the original Leroy Schmaltz carvings. And it's gonna be Canadian beer like Molson or Moosehead Lager or Maple, Moose, Bear, or flannel. Oh, Canada. I love it. You got your wolves and your reindeer and your moose, your foxes, all your North American animals. You got your plush moose mountie. Hey, what the heck is this? You got a Canadian nutcracker right there. I think that might have been one of my relatives' nicknames. Anyway, Canada, beautiful. The real thing and the Epcot version. Unlike some of the other countries out here, I don't see any interpretive signs about Canadian Christmas traditions. Maybe that's because they're just so similar to our traditions here in the United States. But over here on the mill stage, they do have the Canadian Voyageurs, which during the holidays become the Canadian Holiday Voyageurs, playing Christmas rock and roll. Oh, hey, and they do have one of those little interpretive signs. Look at this, Canada, food, family, and festivity. It says Toronto plays host to the oldest Santa Claus parade in all of Canada. Talks about some Inuit traditions, which is pretty cool. There's even a passing reference to Boxing Day, which I suppose some people celebrate in Canada, but never any of my Canadian relatives that I know of. I've always loved that against the lagoon behind the benches here, the fences are decorated with maple leaf carvings, and down here along this wall you got all kinds of cute little Christmas trees and poinsettias, and of course on the breeze the beautiful scent of maple popcorn, which yes, may be stereotypical for Canada, but is also actually very good. By the way, up there, upstairs in the chateau, it's a DVC sales center. That's what I was thinking of. They also have a little DVC kind of emotional spot down here in the old Trapper cabin area. There's some like sort of Kid Con related activities. You got these nice decorations out here, some sort of kid-friendly First Nations style imagery. And then they also have their International Festival of the Holidays booth. The Yukon Holiday Kitchen serving up some seared salmon, beef, I can't read that, maple leaf shortbread cookies, all kinds of alcoholic beverages for your old aunt. It's a whole maple syrup barrel of fun in Canada. All right, well, I'm gonna meet up with Blake and some of my other friends in a minute here. Maybe go do some rides, and then I guess we'll meet up with you guys right afterwards. All right, we did manage to make it on Guardians of the Galaxy. Always a good time. It is never not fun. Guardians of the Galaxy! We must defeat Bob Chapek! Oh my gosh! I would have preferred Blondie or maybe Flock of Seagulls, but I'll take it! I'll take it!
Guardians of the Galaxy. We have no room in our ship to use the road. Drax, it's an honorary title. They're not coming with us.
Dude, the best ride at Disney World, maybe. I really think it might be. What do you say?
Groot.
After Guardians, my friends went through to get some food. and they bought some Mickey sippers and gave me one. Look at this Mickey sipper right here. This thing is so ridiculous. Like, you can take off his head to fill the drink. The little sippy straws like in the back of his skull, and it's the freak. It's like, look at, what is that? It matches the popcorn bucket in Magic Kingdom though. That's a little nutcracker. But it's crazy. I mean, these things are getting so elaborate, they're barely functional anymore. They should just start marketing them as little statues. Look, buy a little statue. Anyways, look at this. Look at Spaceship Earth at night. Epcot at night. The Christmas music coming from the bushes. Spaceship Earth all lit up. Those new light poles. You know, all the weird ground illumination stuff that they added to the park. It's just the best thing they've done. I know some Epcot purists still hate it, right? They want Epcot to be the way it was back in '82. Or stay the way it was, frozen in time after all the remodels of the 1990s, early 2000s. I'm nostalgic for those bits of Epcot that have gone away that I was familiar with. But I gotta say, I love Epcot the way it is now. Like, some of the stuff they've added, like the illumination, and it's just fantastic. And like all the light up effects on Spaceship Earth, it's a wonder they didn't think about that, you know, 40 years ago. Much less a statue of Walt Disney. I mean, Walt wanted to build an actual prototype community of tomorrow, not just another theme park, but at the same time, none of this would exist without him, his dreams, his perseverance, his artists and Imagineers, and of course, his furry little friend. All right, well, as you can see, this day got away from me hardcore. I thought I was gonna get away with doing a lot more today, but this one just sort of slipped through my fingers. I was gonna go over to the land and ride on Living with the Land, see it all lit up for Christmas at night, but then I just remembered Allie's gonna catch up with me here in just a couple of days, and the lines for Living with the Land at night when it's got the Christmas lights inside of it get quite long for whatever reason. So it just dawned on me, you know, maybe I ought to wait. I'd rather not do that line twice if I don't have to. Plus, this Mickey sipper is a lot heavier than it looks, like dragging my neck down. I think I might just roam around here for a few minutes, look at some stuff, and then maybe head on back to the hotel and do some editing. That's always the hardest part for me. The part that few people talk about and nobody sees. Even our adventures here that are on the shorter side still take editing. And when you're hanging out with friends here at night, going to bed at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then getting back up at 7, 8, 9 a.m., and then hoofing it around the parks all day again, 22,000, 25,000 steps a day in my case. Spending 4 or 5 hours editing, finding that time to do that can often be quite challenging. By the way, look at this. This says my first Christmas on it, but look how big that is. What kind of gargantuan baby is this? My first Christmas. I mean, even if you were born on December 26th and you were 1 year old, I don't think you'd be 3 feet tall. Maybe it's for visitors from other planets or something. Anyway, I hit the ground running right away when I got here. I haven't slept much yet, so I'm a little tired, but I am already having a lot of fun out here. The thing with me is I have a hard time reminding myself, like, pace yourself. You got a while. You're gonna be a lot more clear-headed, right? A lot more perceptive, be a lot less grumpy, and have a lot more fun overall. If you remember to stop yourself and take a break every once in a while. I actually see it happen in Disney parks all the time. You'll always see people, it's usually parents. Usually the parents have like total meltdowns from the stress of being at the theme parks. It's just because people run themselves ragged. They want to do everything. So they never pause, they never stop, they never rest, and it just melts down their system. But as many times as I've seen it happen, sometimes I forget to do the same thing. Pace yourself a little. And so in that spirit, for once I'm gonna follow my own advice, the advice that I would give to other people when they're coming here for the first time, and tear myself away from Epcot a little earlier than I have to. Try to go and get some shut-eye after I spend 4 or 5 hours editing again. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Not just because it's Christmas, but all year round, your presence is my present. We got a lot more to do in the coming days, so let's rest and go do it. And until then, go home and sleep well. Canada at Epcot, this is actually known as the something that I can't remember off the top of my head. What the heck? I just blanked out. Oh my gosh. I actually don't remember where I parked. Like at all. No, wait. I took a picture. Oh, that was close.
That's amazing.